Mark Washburn here from PondAlgaeSolutions.com, and today I want to talk to you about handling, or how to handle caring for your fish in the wintertime. Now, this is a perfect time to do it because here we are, amazingly, October 10th, 2009, and it is snowing here in Iowa. We actually have had this going on for over an hour now, sometimes very heavy, sometimes light, but this is an unusual thing to see, but it's a perfect time to talk about overwintering your fish in your pond. And here I am, of course, with my Hawaiian shirt in defiance of the winter weather, trying to hold it off, but it doesn't appear to be working today. When we talk about overwintering your fish, there's a couple key things you want to keep in mind. Most people, and this goes for folks in the northern United States, Canada, and so on, if you have a moderate climate year-round, you don't really have to worry about this kind of thing. But if it does get particularly below 50 degrees for an extended amount of time wherever you are, then you are technically overwintering your fish in the pond. And it's not a bad idea to do that. It tends to stress them out when you bring them inside, but there are times when you really will want to do that, and depending on your preference, you may decide to bring them in or leave them out in the pond. If you leave them in the pond, a couple things to keep in mind. As we've talked about in previous videos, you want to make sure that you remove all organic material from the pond that you can through muck vacuuming, through bacteria, through manual cleaning. You want to try to remove as much of the organics in the pond as you possibly can. If you have plants, you want to remove those. If they're tropicals, you would bring them inside. If they're more hardy, you would cut them back, remove all dead foliage, cut them back, and then put them in the deeper part of the pond. Most folks that have at least 18 to 24 inches of depth in the pond will be able to overwinter their fish successfully. Ideally, you want to try to keep the water open, at least in a small porthole, maybe 3-4 inches in diameter, so that there can be an exchange of oxygen as well as toxic gases that will build up in the pond over the winter can escape. And so you want to try to keep the water open if you can. If you have more depth than, say, 2 feet, that's even better. And as long as you can avoid a total freeze-up, you should be fine. There are techniques that you can use, such as creating a small tent-like structure using a clear plastic and wood frame that can actually keep snow off but insulate the pond surface. If you don't have that luxury and you do develop some ice on the pond and you get some snow, that can actually be an insulating factor as well. So those are beneficial things, and for the most part a pond can take care of itself if you do a few simple things as we've suggested, such as keeping organics very low, keeping a porthole open, that kind of thing. Another thing that's important to note, you want to stop feeding your fish when the water temperature reaches about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason for this is that their digestive systems virtually shut down. They slow down dramatically, and they usually will not eat hardly anything through the winter months. And although that's a long time to go, that's how their system works. If you happen to get a warm day in the middle of winter, you still want to avoid feeding them because it does take a long time for that food to digest. And if the cold snap should come in again, people have actually lost fish because they fed in the midwinter and the fish's digestive system just couldn't handle it. The food rotted in their system and they subsequently died. And so you just want to avoid feeding them anything in the winter. Now, as you go through the fall and cold weather into the winter, while they're still eating, you're not down to 50 degrees water temperature yet, you might want to shift their diet from one with more protein to one with more carbohydrates, which will give them a little better run into the fall. But other than that, you just want to make sure that once you're around 50 degrees, give or take a few degrees either side, you want to have cut back on feeding almost entirely, and by the time it gets cold, you want to stop. And so that is a very key point to make. Now, there's a lot of tips, a lot of tricks, a lot of things that you can do in winter pond care. Most people will shut their waterfall systems off. Filters, biofilters particularly, won't work, so you want to turn those off. If you have a submersible pump, you probably want to remove that. And if you do remove it, you want to take it inside, put it in a bucket of water, keep it wet so that the seals don't dry out, And generally, most mechanicals will not be operational in the pond during the winter. However, you can put a small aerator or a small heater in, and that will suffice to keep the pond open and comfortable. Now, there's a lot of variables, as I said. Many people who read this blog and watch these videos probably have overwintered their fish successfully. If you're one of those folks and you'd like to share your commentary, tips, or suggestions, please do so just below this video. And we'd love to hear from you. You're going to help a lot of pond people out, particularly the newcomers to the pond care hobby. And it will help a lot in getting them started off on the right foot if they want to overwinter their fish successfully. And we thank you for stopping by today. We hope these tips will help you just a little bit as we enjoy the winter weather. Take care.